Well, it's time once again for another edition of Shelf Life Book Reviews Online. Hopefully, if you're seeing this and you haven't hit the subscribe button, please hit the subscribe button and subscribe to not only this, but all future book review videos. So I'm bringing to your attention two great fiction reads, and hopefully when you make your planning for what books you're going to be buying, these two will be at the top of the list. The very first one is Legacy by Nora Roberts. This is published by St. Martin's Press and it retails for $37.99. Nora Roberts is a very familiar name in the fiction world. Most will be aware of her as J.D. Robb in the very popular In Death series, of which there are 53 books presently. She writes, her style is both romance, suspense, futuristic. She can do it all, and during her literary career, I haven't counted the books, but I'm sure she must have over 150 or so books that she's written. So Legacy may not be the best book she's ever written, but it is still a recommended book. This book revolves around Adrienne Rizzo. She's a young girl, and the book opens with her meeting her father actually for the first time. Her father comes into the house where her mother Lena lives. He's in a drunken rage and he is upset he thinks his wife is unfaithful. So he threatens Lena, he threatens the housekeeper Mimi, he assaults her, and it appears that he just might kill somebody. And so there's a struggle at the top of the stairs where Lena, in self-defense, she pushes him away, and Jonathan Bennett goes over the railing and he falls down to his death. So the police realize it is self-defense. So because of this and the controversy that it has created in the neighborhood, Lena decides to send Adrienne, her daughter, to Travelers Creek, Maryland, to live with her grandparents. There she meets a young boy. His name is Raylan. Adrienne at this time is 7 years old, and I think Raylan is 10. So she lives there for many years. She forges a lot of friendships in that small community. Then she eventually goes back to New York. She lives there for several years. Now the book is told in 3 different sections. So when her grandmother dies, Adrienne goes back to Travelers Creek. Raylan is still there. This is, many decades into the future. His wife has died, so he is single again. He's a widower. So the two strike up their friendship again. Now, while you may think Legacy is like a romantic novel, it gets very dark in the final third of the book, because Adrienne starts getting letters from a man who signs the letters as the poet. The letters become more violent, and as the letters come in, there is evidence of a string of murders of women across America, and the murders are linked to the past, to Jonathan Bennett, and it becomes a very complex book suddenly, where you think, oh, it's just a nice, romantic book where Adrienne and Raylan are likely going to live happily ever after. Well, no. There is danger to Adrienne, and she must deal with this psycho who we're not really sure. We have suspicions of who this might be, but it gets darker and darker as the deaths pile up. I think 8 women are murdered in various sadistic ways. So Legacy really turns into one of those thrillers where it's romance in the first half, and the second half is danger and death. So it's typical Nora Roberts. She writes. She's not a predictable writer, and that's what you got to love about this author. So if you're looking for a different kind of book that is romance in the first, and then the second half it turns deadly, Legacy is definitely a book for you. The second book I would like to draw to your attention is The Killing Tide by Lin Anderson. This is published by Macmillan, and it retails for $38.99. I must admit, I had never read a Rona McLeod book before this one, and this, incidentally, is book 16 of the Rona McLeod series. She is a forensic scientist, and past books have all been bestsellers, so I will definitely be checking out earlier books in the series. Now, this is a very complex book. It begins with an abandoned ship, which is found off the Orkney Islands. On board, the ship has been abandoned, but there are 3 bodies on board. 2 of the people are dressed in Viking gear, and they were killed by swords. So there was some sort of, unusual fantasy game, and it was all thanks to a company called Go Wild Enterprises. So they were behind it. Now, is this a sexual fantasy type game? So it brings Rona McLeod, the forensic scientist, on board to check into the murders, how the people died, and why the people died. But this is not the only murder. DS Deputy Sergeant Michael McNabb, he's also part of the book, and he is dealing with the discovery of a young girl who has been set on fire. Most of her body is burned beyond recognition, and when he finds a purse close to the body, it has one girl's name in it, so he suspects first it is this person. Well, it's not. So it was the person whose name is close to the body, was she part of the reason for this murder? So these are 2 different murders, but we start to wonder, are these 2 connected? Because there are strange similarities to the 2 deaths. Now, Michael McNabb is a deputy sergeant who really gets into trouble. Twice he is abducted by very, very mean, evil people. The first time he barely escapes with his life, and he's not deterred from going back into trying to find the same people. Well, once again, he's caught. So, but he does escape. I will give that little spoiler, or there wouldn't be a last part to the book. But anyways, Rona McLeod is a very interesting character. She has an assistant by the name of Chrissy, who adds a little bit of levity to the book as well, too. So this is a police procedural, and it's very well written, but it does become very dark in places and very suspenseful in places as well. That's why Lin Anderson is one of the top Scottish authors. So this book is definitely a book that you need to seek out. The Killing Tide is a killer of a good book. So those are the 2 books I wanted to bring to your attention, Legacy and The Killing Tide. So hopefully when you, as I mentioned before, make your book planning purchases, these 2 will be at the top of the list. So as always, I do thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. Please send me your comments, and do look forward to future ones, because there's a lot more to come. So as always, please stay safe, stay sane, stay social distancing, and do stay in touch. Bye for now.